Dear students, I welcome you to the course Psychology of Individual Differences, and our today's lecture is the concept and process of motivation. The objectives of the lecture include to know about the nature of motivation, to understand the motives classified as primary motives, to know about the secondary motives, to know about the steps of motivational process, and to know about the functions of motives in learning. Now first, nature of motivation. Students, motivation refers to an internal force which is responsible for accelerating a response or behavior. It is a condition that energizes as well as directs behavior. Motivation may be described as a psychological force within an individual inspiring him or her to use his maximum capabilities for the achievement of certain objectives. To motivate means to induce, instigate, incite, or prompt someone to a particular course of action. Motives refer to the energizing forces within an individual. Since there are individual differences, no single type of motivation works for everyone. People's personalities vary, and hence the type of motivation varies from person to person. Motivation is goal-directed and hence responsible to satisfy the physiological and psychological human needs. Motivation involves the biological, emotional, social, and cognitive forces responsible for activating one's behavior. It refers to a driving force that makes an individual work with a high degree of enthusiasm, dedication, and productivity. Now, classification of motives. Since motives refer to the expressions of a person's needs, they are considered as personal and internal. These motives are the primary energizers of behavior which prompt or push people to action. In other words, it can be said that motive is that state of organism which makes it perform certain act or duty. It is an aroused feeling generated through the basic needs which are responsible for compelling an organism to respond by developing a certain kind of tension. Motive moves or induces a person to act in a certain way and hence are directed towards achievement of certain goals. In order to have a better understanding of the nature and role of these motives, we may classify them into two categories. First, it is the primary motives, and next, the secondary motives. Now, what are primary motives? Primary motives include the biological motives, the social motives, and the personal motives. Now, what are biological motives? As a matter of fact, biological motives originate from organic needs such as hunger, thirst, and sex. These motives are of much importance, responsible for the existence of an individual. The need for food gives rise to hunger drive, and the individual searches for food. The need for water gives rise to thirst motive, and this motive comes from the sensation of dryness in the mouth and throat. The individual also comes across the need for the satisfaction of sex urge or desire to seek sex experience. The source of all kinds of behavior, according to the Viennese physician and psychologist Sigmund Freud, is the sex motive. Although sex urge is not completely essential for the survival of the individual and not so indispensable like food, air, water, sex motive is a highly powerful human urge responsible for the satisfaction of one's proper growth. Now, social motives. People learn and develop differently in different cultural settings. So, these social motives develop from social interaction. Social motives include gregariousness, acquisitiveness, aggression, self-assertion, and tendency to seek social approval, affection, respected place in a group, degrees, and other status symbols. Humans have a strong motivation to live in the company of others. Acquisitive motive is equally strong in human beings. Aggression motive is sometimes expressed in violent activities intended to give physical or psychological harm to others. Self-assertion is another powerful social motive and is expressed while showing off excessive desire for attention, status, and prestige. The desire to earn prestige and seek social approval is considered one of the strong social motives. Achievement or status motive includes craving for recognition, fame, power, and leadership. Our experiences and cultural heritage influence our social motive. Now, personal motives. Personal motives are learned through one's unique life experiences. One's interests, attitudes, self-concept, and life goals are the true examples of personal motives. They both act as motivators because interests show an individual's feeling of like or dislike for a situation, and the attitude shows disposition to act positively or negatively. In regard to something, how can we expect an individual to act in situations if he or she has no interest for doing so? Similarly, a person's attitudes are responsible for attracting him or her towards certain situations. Personal or ego motive may include one's esteem motive, self-actualization motive, achievement motive, etc. Ego motive is responsible for making an individual to strive for gaining mastery over challenging situations. Generally, individuals desire to unfold their skills and capacities for earning fame and prestige from the members of the society. In adolescent stage of life, this ego motive appears stronger. Now, let's understand the secondary motives. Secondary motives are called as learned motives. These motives are attached to different goals or stimuli. Secondary motives come into existence when primary motives and basic necessities are no longer an issue to satisfy. Quite contrary to physiological motives, which are connected to some basic needs, secondary motives are learned motives. Humans as well as animals have physiological motives, but only human beings have the social motives. We have secondary motives in the form of achievement motive, power motive, and affiliation motive, etc. Power motive refers to the desire to influence other individuals' behavior. It is the desire to be influential and thus have control over others. Need for achievement is the urge to excel and achieve success. The individuals beset with high achievement needs are highly motivated by competing and challenging work. The affiliative motive is a need for open and social interpersonal relationships. It refers to the desire for relationship based on cooperation and mutual understanding. Students, now let us understand the process of motivation. Motivation is a continuous process which includes some continuous steps. In fact, human wants never end. If a specific want is fulfilled, another comes into existence. The important steps included in the motivational process can be described as follows. Steps of motivation process. Unsatisfied needs and motives. Second, tension, or you may call it as a drive. Then the third one, action to satisfy needs and motives. Then there is goal accomplishment. And the last one is the feedback. Now first, unsatisfied needs and motives. Motivation process starts with an unsatisfied need. Need is the first necessary condition or stimulating factor for any goal-directed or purposeful behavior. A need refers to deficit or deprivation of some necessity. This state of deprivation causes a sort of tension within an organism. The tension caused by the need motivates an individual to perform any task to achieve his goal and satisfy the need. Hence, the first process of motivation involves an unsatisfied need or motive. This need or motive is the actual driving force to purchase a new car, have food, or get higher education are all unsatisfied needs for an individual. Now, the second step, that is the drive, or you may call it as tension. The drive refers to the original source of energy that activates an organism. Needs are responsible for producing a state of tension or arousal, state of disequilibrium, physiological or psychological imbalance within the individuals. This state of tension, arousal or imbalance refers to a drive. The drive is observed when a need or motive remains unsatisfied or unaccomplished. After observing a drive, the human beings start looking for various alternatives to satisfy the drive. A man who is hungry or thirsty seeks to reduce his drive by eating or drinking. Hence, drive acts as a strong, persistent stimulus which is responsible for pushing an organism towards its goal. The third step, that is action to satisfy needs and motives, or you may call it as search. A drive or tension creates a strong internal stimulus that calls for action. This third step of the process of motivation is called as search. The individual in this stage engages in relevant activities to satisfy needs and motives for tension reduction. The action can be, for example, hard work for earning more money or preparing for an examination. We can say that attention starts from the unsatisfied need and action starts from the tension. This effort, action or search leads an individual to achieve a certain goal. This search goes on continuously until the needs are fulfilled. Now, there is the fourth step, that is the goal accomplishment. When the phase of need or motive, tension or drive and search are over, it is ultimately action that takes the individual towards the successful achievement of goal that fulfills his need or motive. The goal of any motivated behavior is in fact the reduction of tension in the body. The tension is reduced when a hungry man eats food and his body restores to a balanced condition. After getting distinction in the examination, the student feels relaxed. The goal refers to the reduction of tension as a result of an energized activity. Goals can be of both the types, positive and negative. Positive goals refer to such goals which an organism tries to attain, such as food, victory, promotion, etc. Negative goals refer to those goals which an organism tries to escape from, such as embarrassing situations, punishments, etc. But satisfaction of one need is not the end of the motivation process. Once one need is fulfilled, another needs develop in human beings, and the same process goes on. The fifth step of motivation process is the feedback. Feedback refers to the outcome of the behavior. This outcome helps an individual to evaluate the consequences of the behavior. Feedback may be either in the form of the reduction of tension or increase in tension. If the course of action of a person results in the expected outcome or reward, that person is likely to be motivated to act the same way in the future. However, if the action does not result in the expected reward or outcome, he or she is unlikely to repeat the behavior and hence shall follow a new course of action. Now, students, now let us see the educational significance of motivation. The foremost objective of motivation is to stimulate and facilitate the learning process. It is essential to attempt to get the learner into a state of readiness and to assist the learner to achieve ends and purposes which he is zealous to attain. Considering individual differences in the class, the motivation of learning must be varied for different learners. Psychologists consider intelligence and motivation as two major factors in school achievement. They consider the latter as most important because it is the controlling factor in every learning process. Motivation helps the pupil to concentrate on what he or she is learning. Now, students, let us go through some of the techniques that help teachers to enhance the motivation of children. Since motivation is indispensable to learning, it occupies a central place in the teaching learning process. Every teacher needs to motivate his or her students before going to teach them. Now, first thing that needs consideration is the definiteness of the purpose and goals. Goal setting is considered as an important component of human motivation. When goal is set, motivation becomes a goal-oriented behavior. Definiteness of the aims and goals make the learners interested and set them to work in a desirable direction. How can one feel interested in the task if he or she is not aware of the purpose served by doing that task? Hence, it is the job of the teachers to see that their pupils are well acquainted with the aims and objectives of studying a subject or a specific topic. Now, the next one, that is appropriate learning situation and environment. The total school environment in which the pupil learns influences the learning process to a great extent. The provision of a well-equipped healthy classroom environment proves to be a strong motivating force. The physical facilities available in the school in terms of a good library, a good playground, and opportunities to take part in curricular as well as co-curricular activities, cooperation from the teachers, educational guidance, etc., influence and motivate the learners. The people take interest to read, write, listen to the teacher carefully if well-decorated classrooms are available with proper seating arrangements and other required furniture. Teachers and school authorities need to make efforts to provide suitable learning situations and environment. Now, the aspirational level of the students. It is necessary for a teacher to see that the activity of the class is tailored in accordance with the aspiration level of the pupils. The teachers must design the level of difficulty of classroom tasks, keeping into consideration the level of aspiration of the class, which depends on several factors like intelligence, socio-economic status, parental relation, and expectation from pupils. The learning objectives should be attainable and the students should feel that they are able to achieve them. The responsibility of the teacher is to design various class activities in such a way that students should keep striving to achieve the learning objectives. School assignments work should be well prepared so that every pupil may succeed at his or her own speed. Active participation. Students tend to do better when they are actively involved in the task or activity undertaken. It becomes a one-way affair if students are not actively involved in learning and other school programs. The active involvement of students motivates them and they participate in purposeful and meaningful activities with interest. As a matter of fact, pupils' ego involvement ensures release of more energy and they feel more interested. Students do attend to their activities more vigorously and put in more concentrated effort. Since motivation is an act of inculcating interest in the students, the teacher can arouse the interest of the students in work by motivating and engaging them in the process of learning. Engaged or motivated learners experience more interest and hence are involved behaviorally, intellectually, and emotionally in learning tasks. Now, the next one that is very much needed, that is the methodology of teaching. An effective teacher, with the help of her or his art of teaching, can stimulate the students for better learning. Old dogmatic methods prove boring and hence kill the initiative and interest of the learners, while the progressive methods based on the psychological principles keep them motivated. The technique of playway method, storytelling, lecture cum demonstration methods stimulate the students' curiosity and interest and hence are beneficial with respect to their learning. Teaching should not be monotonous and hence the subject matter of teaching should be presented in a variety of novel ways so that curiosity of students may be maintained. The well-trained and effective teacher makes use of such useful techniques, taking into consideration the maturity level of the pupils as well as the difficulty level of the content matter. The next one, that is the use of audiovisual aids. In order to provide vitality to the teaching process and making it more effective, teachers do present the content matter with the help of different audiovisual aids. In this way, the teacher handles the topic tactfully with varieties of audiovisual aids and thus stimulates the students for learning. The teacher can make use of movies, tape recorders, woolen boards, flash cards, folding cards, etc. in order to create interest and hence vanishes the boredom. In order to bring a sort of change in the daily routine, scheduled, rigid timetable, students may be given opportunities to visit to museums, bird sanctuaries, botanical gardens and other places of historical and educational value. Now, next one, that is Linking the new learning with the past. Students, previous learning proves just like a hook on which new learning is being hanged. As a matter of fact, what has been learned or experienced in the past proves a good base or foundation for the present learning. It becomes easy for the student to learn the new material if he or she thinks that he or she knows all that which is required as a base for this new learning. Since experience is a great teacher, the assigned task seems to be interesting, easy, and within the capacity of the individual, if it is properly related with past experience. Hence, it is the prime duty of the teacher to base his or her present teaching upon the previous learning experiences acquired by the people. Now, knowledge of the result and progress, or you may call it as feedback. It has been observed and even verified through various investigations that knowledge of the result or feedback tend to increase the frequency of the response. In other words, learning is faster and effective when the learners are provided with the knowledge of their progress. Immediate knowledge of the results provides sufficient feedback to the learner and hence not only acquaints him or her with the success or failure, but makes him or her able to plan the future attempts in reaching towards specific goals. In programmed learning, developed by B.F. Skinner, the American psychologist, the learner immediately gets the knowledge of his performance, and this acts as a motivating force in the learning process. It is hence recommended that the teacher should provide proper feedback to the pupils so as to motivate them in learning. A proper evaluation of school work by the teachers can become an effective motivation for better learning. Now, co-curricular activities. Co-curricular activities in the form of sports, debates, discussions, dramas, etc. develop people interests and stimulate their latent abilities. There should be a proper provision of many such co-curricular activities in schools so that pupils with diverse personalities may choose some activities of interest to them and participate in them. Dear students, to conclude, we may say that motivation refers to a driving force that makes an individual work with a high degree of enthusiasm, dedication, and productivity. Motivation involves the biological, emotional, social, and cognitive forces responsible for activating one's behavior. When people are motivated, they are able to gain valued outcomes like improved performance, enhanced well-being, personal growth, or a sense of purpose. Hence, motivation is crucial because it allows us to change behavior, develop competencies, be creative, set goals, grow interests, make plans, and develop talents. Needless to say that motivation is a vital resource that allows us to adapt, function productively, and maintain well-being. When motivational science is applied to everyday life, it helps us to motivate employees, coach athletes, counsel clients, and engage students. Students, it was all for today. I hope that you might have enjoyed this very session. Thanks.